Hello. I'm going to keep this very short and to the point because I have a tendency to ramble. I want you to watch two videos. The first is by Rudy Giuliani, and he covers the legal aspects of all this. And he covers it exhaustively. He covers them. I can't remember what I said. It's been a long day. He covers the legal aspect exhaustively, so it's not necessary for me to summarize what he says. The video is linked below to watch the whole thing. He does an ad in the middle of it. Oh, that Rudy, but he's got bills to pay, so got it. Now, the second video is the announcement by the Department of Defense that they've begun a huge reorganization of our special operations capabilities. And you need to watch the video. You need to see just how happy and excited Christopher Miller is. He's the acting Secretary of Defense, and nobody could figure out why he had been appointed since he was not one of the more senior commanders. Well, it's the senior commanders who've caused all our problems. So Miller has an extensive background in extensive combat experience in special operations missions. So it looks like the Special Operations Command is going to become the Special Operations Branch. It's going to be a separate branch of the service, and that makes sense because military commanders, the various secretaries of the Army, Navy, Marines, all that, Air Force, they interfere a lot. And, if special operations is its own independent branch, then problem solved. So special operations, regardless of what happens in the future, this video confirms that special operations are now a strategic asset, not a tactical asset anymore. And this is what John F. Kennedy envisioned when he created the first special operations units. He didn't create them, he ordered them created. And as SecDef Miller says, they've been debating this for 30 years or more. So two things. One, this shows you that Trump isn't going anywhere. He wouldn't start this just to see it dismantled by Joe Biden's puppeteers. And two, I think the reason Miller was so happy, and you really need to watch the video. I like this guy a lot. I like him a lot. Ezra Cohen Watnick hates being filmed, and he hates being in public. You can see from his body language, he's like, "Argh." And I understand Ezra. I can call you Ezra because I've got 24 years on you, 24 years on you. And it may not look like it, but these videos are really hard for me to do. I have a massive stutter that I am conquering through sheer willpower as I speak. And my stutter takes the form of not being able to find the words. And so rather than do the classic Porky Pig stutter, I tend to blank out. And I have to concentrate really hard. I have to see my sentences ahead in order to not have my blank periods become so intrusive that everybody says, I don't want to hear this guy talk anymore. And I also have a written problem called dysgraphia. So essentially, I'm incommunicado. But, it's okay. Trump's still president. Trump Trump will be president for a second term, as he's just proven by starting to make all these changes. So the importance of the Department of Defense video is that they're well on their way to making special operations a separate branch of service. So that means that we're going to have the special operators, we're going to have the conventional armed forces, and then we're going to have the people in between, which is exactly what the German flamethrower arm was in World War I. They were halfway between a tactical and strategic asset. And the only reason they didn't become a strategic asset was because the technology was in its infancy. Aircraft are now a strategic asset, and at the end of the war, they were just starting to have strategic bombers, and as you're aware, we now have multiple. We had Strategic Air Command. Do we still have it? I don't know, but the German flamethrower arm would have become a strategic asset if it hadn't been for the Allied blockades. The most important parts of the flamethrower were, the most important raw materials were rubber and brass. And so they couldn't get enough rubber and brass to create more than a single regiment. But if they'd had a division of flamethrower operators, that would have been bad for the Allies. And then luckily Hitler was the boss in World War II, so he had no idea what he was doing, and they lost badly. But the head of the flamethrower arm, Bernhard Redemann, he reported directly to the Crown Prince. Okay, Germany was an empire. You had the Emperor, who was Wilhelm II, and then you had Crown Prince Wilhelm. And Crown Prince Wilhelm was a soldier, and he bankrolled the flamethrower arm out of his own pocket. And okay, he was royalty. He was number 2 in the empire, and he insisted that the operators call him by his, not only by his first name, call him by his nickname, Willy. So when he went to see the flamethrower operators, they got to say, Willy, how are you? Long time no see. And this was unheard of in the era for emperors' families to have such a connection to commoners. So you had like privates in the flamethrower arm saying, Willy, long time no see. So it's pretty amazing. They were on their way to becoming a strategic arm, but they didn't have the raw materials, and they lost the war, and the rest is history. So that video is very important because it shows that the military is reforming, as Miller said, Secretary of Defense Miller said. It's a tectonic change, and he said when we have changes like this, they have to be tectonic, and that's true, and that's Trump's philosophy. So this change means that Trump knows he's not going anywhere because he's going to have to be there. If Trump is gone, then Biden will stop this on his first day. Biden plans on surrendering to China, Iran, and Russia. So that's just the way it goes. But this is my theory now, and I have absolutely no evidence for it. If you watch the Giuliani movie, he tells us that the Dominion, it's a subcontractor for Dominion. The vote counting machines are in Frankfurt, Germany, and Barcelona, Spain. Now, Giuliani says it may be difficult to get hard evidence from the machines. He's talking from a legal standpoint. Now, if the raw votes were sent to Barcelona and Frankfurt, that means they were intercepted by the United States Armed Forces. And that's all we need. That's all we need. Okay? The raw votes are all we need, and it's not that many per state. We don't have to worry about a lot of states. We only have to worry about 7 states and maybe a few more if Trump really wants to hammer home his point. If the raw votes, which we know had to be sent overseas, were intercepted by the U.S. military using cyber warfare techniques, then we have the Democrats, they're dead. They're absolutely dead as a political party. And I think that's more likely than not, because this is a national security issue. And almost every single person telling us to get over it, the election's over, they're pretending that this is no big deal. Well, this is worse than the FBI spying on Trump illegally. This is worse than the fake impeachment. This is worse than the fake Russia investigation. This isn't a coup. This is an act of war. So there's absolutely no doubt. The U.S. military is pledged to defend us from all enemies, foreign and domestic. So I have no doubt that we have the capability of intercepting the raw votes on their way to Barcelona and Frankfurt. And Trump knows that he needs a lot more than the Supreme Court decisions. Everything Giuliani says is compelling, but if Trump is able to present us with the raw vote count, and then we can compare it to what the machines returned, it's game over. It can't be argued. And you don't need U.S. military there on the ground seizing servers. All you have to do is intercept that data as it's on its way to Germany and Spain. So I think that almost certainly happened, or something even more mind-blowing. Who knows? Now, of course, I knew this was going to happen. I have fake Trump supporters in my comments saying, are you going to admit that you were totally wrong about CISA, the cybersecurity infrastructure security agency? Trump fired the head, Chris Krebs, today. Are you going to admit you were totally wrong? Well, if you recall, my dear imbeciles, my dear drooling cretins who all get your marching orders from the same queen bee, I said, what did I say? I said Trump has redundant systems. So CISA was supposed to do a job. If it turns out that Chris Krebs, was a saboteur, it doesn't matter. Trump wasn't relying on him. Um, Trump is the special forces president in the same way that JFK was. So that means the special forces have a deep special operations forces. I'm sorry. Special forces are U.S. Army Green Berets. So I meant to say special operations forces. Trump is the special operations president. And that means he's got an incredible loyalty from our top tier unconventional warriors. And um, what I think the way this worked was that Trump and only a handful of people knew about it. Trump didn't tell Giuliani because Giuliani has he's assigned the legal aspect, and it would not be fair to Giuliani to include him in operations such as this. Giuliani's doing fine, and he makes some really compelling arguments that I would find it shocking if the Supreme Court doesn't rule on his side. But all we need is the raw data, the raw votes going to the machines and coming back processed to show Biden as the winner. That's all we need. And you can bet that we have the capabilities of getting that. So if Trump knew this was going to happen, and we have the capabilities to get that raw data, then, obviously he got it. So watch the two videos and inform yourselves and stop worrying, because it's Republicans are caving all over the country, but that's what they do. Republicans cave. They were threatened with being called a racist, and they went, I'm not a racist, please don't call me that, I'll sell out the whole country. And I'll end with some really great news that I got right from the horse's mouth. I will not use any names, but one of the most famous leftist radicals in the United States has come out for Trump for a very specific reason. She says that Black America voted for Trump and they've been disenfranchised by the Democrats. So she's going to be on a show, and I was shocked when I heard that. I had to have that name confirmed to me. I'm not going to tell you the show. I'm not going to tell you her name because, it still might not happen. But this was confirmed to me, and you're going to be stunned when you find out who it is. I was stunned. But her position is unassailable. Black Americans voted for Trump. And the fact that they had their votes stolen means they were brutally disenfranchised. They were brutally disenfranchised, and the people trying to make sure they have their voices heard are being called racist. And that's what finally did it for this radical socialist Black American activist politician. So she's come out for Trump, and she's going to be interviewed, And it's an amazing day. Trump is the great uniter. Um, the Democrats are not only the great dividers, but they are they're slave masters. But now we're all slaves if Biden takes power. They're coming right out and saying it, and that's the final thing I'll say in this video. Trump is letting them come out and say Agenda 230 or Agenda 2030, by 2030 you will own nothing. Private property will be outlawed. You will rent everything. They're serious. That's 9 years from now. So not only have the masks dropped, I mean they're actually approvingly using the term New World Order in public. So this Trump is letting them expose themselves so that we will know the bullet we dodged when he comes forward and proves that the election was stolen. And the reason this is vital is that this is a question of national security. Forget politics. This is a question of national security. So you bet the U.S. military was involved. And watch the Secretary of Defense capering with glee at the podium, and then watch the signing ceremony. You're going to end up with a smile on your face 9 feet wide. So all is well. Click.